slide is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, it's 1 o'clock. I think we're ready to begin. Hello, everyone. My name is Sandy Allen. I'm the administrator for ASID California Central Nevada chapter. Welcome to the Basic Paint Technologies webinar provided by Dunn Edwards Paints. Before I introduce our speaker, I'd like to go over a couple of chapter reminders. First, the early bird discount deadline for the Andes Awards is at the end of this month. We'd like to encourage everyone to submit their best projects. The final submission deadline is April 30th. Also, our Las Vegas Downtown Walking Tour is happening on the Friday before Las Vegas Market. That's Friday, April 9th. If you plan to come to market, we'd love for you to come a day early and join us on the tour. The very next Wednesday, we're hosting our annual student brunch and Las Vegas Market tour. We hope that a lot of our ASID students will join us for a fun day at market. Please keep an eye on our monthly chapter newsletters to stay informed about everything that's going on. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce you to our speaker. Her name is Wendy Seeley. Wendy is a certified interior designer for the state of California and a lead AP. She worked for several years as an interior designer for a large commercial firm doing federal, state, and local projects. For the past 8 years, she has been working as an architectural representative for Dunn Edwards Company, helping architects and interior designers with specifications, samples, and other paint needs. Wendy, I'm going to make you the host, and we're over to you.
Very good. Okay, let me just share my screen here, folks. Be patient with me. And you can tell me if you see this in presentation mode.
We see it.
Do you see the full screen, just one slide?
No, actually, we did now. We're seeing more than one.
Okay. All right, let me try again. Sorry. I'm so sorry, guys. This is I'm really glad that you're here today. Just bear with me for one moment. Okay, now let me try one more time. Share screen, sound. All right, hold on, it should look here. Now, do you see one screen?
Wendy, we see your presentation mode for, like, you see the next slide, but it's okay. Unless there's, if notes that are on the slide, we'll be able to see it.
Well, there aren't any notes. So let me just, I'm sorry, you guys, I really am not. I apologize. Okay, let me close this out one more time. You know what I'm going to do? I think I found out the problem. I am plugged into my second screen. That is the problem. I think that's what's causing it. So sorry. All right, now let's see. Now do you see just the one screen?
Yeah.
Oh, yay. Okay. Very good. Well, I am so happy to be here with Kelly and Danielle today, and I hope that this is an interesting presentation. My colleague in the Bay Area, she always jokes that talking about paint is about as interesting as watching it dry. So hopefully it will be more interesting than that to you. Now, we are going to have 4 little tiny quizzes sprinkled throughout, and Kelly is going to give away a gift certificate, I don't know what, a gift card of some kind, and for each of the winners. And then pardon my voice today. having allergy problems. But when you get the question, it'll be really obvious. You're going to write in the chat really quickly the answer. They're very simple and it will be very quick. So be on your toes, okay? All right, let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about paint technology. And these are our main topics of properties of paint, what constitutes quality paint, and basic paint composition. And we're going to talk a little bit about our environmental concerns. So what is paint? Well, this is just a Webster's dictionary definition: a fluid suspension of pigment in a liquid with a film-forming resin or binder capable of converting to a solid form when a thin layer is applied to a surface. That's just a mouthful, but mainly paint is used to protect and beautify the space. You know what, guys? I think I have the wrong presentation here. This is the worst. I'm so sorry. Hold on, let me see. Shoot, I do. Oh my gosh, Scott, excuse me so much. What a ridiculous thing. Well, okay.
So while Wendy is getting organized, I want to jump in. Yeah, and
yes.
I'll jump in really fast. So my name is Danielle Kinahan, and I'm running what we call, it's relaunched. It's called the Emerging Professionals Program, and it's all about interacting with students like you. And we're going to have a student design competition to be launched in August of this year. And it's being created right now. It's we're working on the website, etc. But the idea is to allow students with all skill levels to be able to practice and be critiqued in a safe space and really get their skills kind of honed in. So there'll be a beginner level and an advanced level. So definitely keep a lookout for information, and we'll send it to ASID, your local chapter, so you can learn more. They're going to be cash prizes. We also will be having a student association created, and we're relaunching our website to have more materials that are available for you for free to help you be the best student you can be. So when you're ready to get your first job or second job, because it's, a new career, whatever it is, we're here to help you. We are your partners, and that's all we're doing. That's partly why we're doing these presentations, is just to help you learn more so you're more confident. And so please reach out to us at any time. You'll have our contact information at the end, and we'll also send out the PDF version of the presentation for you to reference when you need to. Then.
Okay, well, I don't know why, but I have lost the presentation. This is the most crazy thing. I am so sorry. I don't understand where it is. Oh, brother. Okay, well, we're just going to have to go with that other one. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. All right, let me get that back up again. All right. Am I still sharing my screen? Can you see that?
No.
Okay. All right, let me go back to Zoom. I mean, we don't normally use Zoom, but it still shouldn't be an issue. Okay.
I guess I'll also mention, while we have the moment, is for everybody, if you're looking for jobs that are flexible with being in class, I'll just wrap it up real fast, but we have professional color advisors, and especially in your areas, we're definitely recruiting for that. So if you want something where you get to practice your design skills and have a flexible schedule with your class, that's something to look out for on our careers page. So Wendy, I'll let you take it over now.
Okay, I apologize for all the glitches here. So what's in a can of paint? Well, you have solids and a liquid. Now the solids are made up of the resin and the pigments, and the liquid, well, that's what gets you to your surface, okay? So if you're rolling or spraying or brushing, and then that liquid is what evaporates when it's completely cured. Pigments, of course, as designers, we love pigments because that's what gives us color. And to us, that's the most important part about painting, right? Making a change, freshening it up. So, but obviously they're very important for other reasons. We need to hide whatever surface we're painting. So we need that opacity. We need, it gives us life to the, sort of body to the paint film. And there are two types of pigments, prime and reinforcing. We're going to talk about prime pigments first. So titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, these are two prime pigments main prime pigments for white. Titanium dioxide is one of the most expensive ingredients in paint. It is the brightest and widest and has the best or hide power, most opacity of prime pigments in white. So it is a really important pigment. And if you look at your data sheets when you're going to paint, make sure you look at what percentage of titanium dioxide is in that can of paint. You want it to be relatively high. Then zinc oxide, it can resist ultraviolet light, which means it doesn't fade as quickly. And then it prevents yellowing and chalking. Chalking is just that, when a paint oxidizes, you get that film on your hand when you touch it, kind of a white chalky feeling. So let's talk about colored pigments. Organic pigments are those incredibly beautiful, gorgeous, vivid colors and all kinds of bright colors. Now, they are a little more expensive. They have a higher price point on the market, and they fade a little more quickly. Now, most of these are not made out of plant or animal sources anymore. They're made in a lab. But I don't know if you've ever seen those beautiful shawls, Jewish prayer shawls that have that blue. Originally, and it may still be, it was taken from a Dead Sea shellfish some kind, that beautiful blue. So, but today we make these in a lab for the most part. We actually, Dunn does not use any animal sources at all. We are vegan paint. Can you believe that? Vegan. But inorganic pigments, those are those mineral sources that are mined, and they're a very beautiful, earthy look. It's like the Southwest, right, Kelly? This is those iron oxides that are just so lovely. Well, they have a lower price point, and they're resistant to fading. So this is good. And so most of the exterior paints that we select, they have the colors that we want that don't have ours has a little symbol that says a letter I, and that means in the interior, but you could paint it on the exterior in one of our exterior paint formulations. But if it says that, it means it's probably got a lot of those organic pigments that fade more quickly. Reinforcing pigments. Now, these are very important for all of the resistance properties that you see, the reducing of the sagging, abrasion resistance, settling in the can. It's super important. So every single formulation will have reinforcing pigments in there. Now, silicon dioxide at the very bottom, this is one we do not recommend. It does have high scrub resistance, but this is silica. Silica is a respiratory inhalant. Sounds like I've inhaled it. It's something that in the mining process and in the manufacturing process, and when you go back to repaint something, sand it, you're going to release some of those particulates. So it is not healthy. So we do not recommend it. Next slide. Resin or binder, I said that those are interchangeable, and that's because binder, a term for resin. It's just a more descriptive term. So in other words, it binds the ingredients together. It helps things adhere. It gives paint its performance. This is the important part of paint, other than color but this is what's going to really help us help the paint perform, especially on the exterior. And those are just a few different types of resins listed there. So what are the resistance properties? Well, ultraviolet light, light that we have out here in the desert and in the Central Valley, it's just harsh. So it can cause paint cracking and that sort of thing, fading from ultraviolet light. It also gives us resistance to moisture and chemicals and staining. And again, chalking. Blocking is something we're going to discuss here in a little bit. And getting farther along with resins, this is a little bit redundant. Holds those particles together, protects, provides adhesion and durability. So this is, again, where we get our durability from, is the resin. And it enables the pigment to be spread thin and uniform and gives sheen to paint. This is where we get our sheen. And this is so important to you as designers, because you have to select a sheen, and especially for the exterior, because even though we like that flat look, it's not going to protect the paint coating as well. And now we're going to have a question. Because I don't have the original, my correct presentation, I'll just ask you a question. Name and write this to get your chat open and write it in the chat. Can they do that, Sandy?
Yes, people can write in the chat.
Okay, so get your chat open and Kelly's going to write down the answer, or whoever got the answer first. Name one white pigment that is a prime pigment. Are they writing?
I don't see anything in my notes.
Where's
Question, Wendy?
that chat window? I'm sorry, Danielle, what was that?
Can you repeat the question for everyone?
Oh, yes. Name one prime white pigment.
So we have Cynthia, apologize if I pronounced it wrong, titanium dioxide, Sophia titanium
Yes.
oxide.
Okay, so if she was the first one, then Kelly will be giving her a gift certificate. Very good. The other one is what, Danielle?
Titanium oxide, close.
Oxide and
yeah.
zinc, and zinc oxide. Good.
So Cynthia, why don't you send in the message box your email address, and Kelly will get you the prize.
Yes, email and probably, I don't know how Kelly wants to do it, but email or address, physical address. Okay, so we went over this slide. Oh, sorry. So let's talk a little bit more about gloss and sheen. So this little diagram at the top shows flat paint. Now flat paint, the pigments are just sort of sitting up on top. And so when light hits that surface, it's not bouncing off at a level that shows us it's shining. It's getting absorbed into those dry pigments. And that's why with flat paint, we have to make sure we understand we can't scrub flat paint as well as we can a paint that has a little bit of sheen to it. Now, Dunn Edwards makes the paint that actually is a scrubbable matte paint. It's not really dead flat. But you always reach out to Kelly or me if you have any questions about any of our products. But then when at the second little diagram with the semi-gloss, the paint is hitting some of that resin and the pigments are not as exposed. So it's giving off more specular light. Now, when you finally get to that gloss at the bottom, it's hitting that gloss and just bouncing right off, and that's where we're seeing sheen. And all of those pigments in that paint formulation are completely encapsulated and protected by the resin. And so that's why you get such a beautiful shine. Sometimes we don't like shine, but other times we do. So now let's talk a little bit about the difference between alkyd and latex enamel. You can call a latex paint an enamel. I know that sounds strange to some people, but you can, because enamel is just a term. It doesn't mean only alkyd or only oil. So alkyd stands for oil, if I didn't say that. But you can see that alkyd on the left, it had a lot more salt. So today we have more solids that are left on the surface because we have less solvent, and that solvent is what evaporates, right? So that's the difference. And of course, they're low VOC or zero VOC. So that's the big change. And obviously alkyd, they have their place. Unfortunately, here in California, we have really strict rules about, the EPA, even that governs the entire country, has strict rules. But we have even more stringent rules regarding what we can use outside, indoors for healthy air. And outside too, actually, but mostly it concerns the indoor air quality. And, oil-based products had their place. They're wonderful. My mother used to paint all of our bathroom cabinets with them, and every time touch it, a little wrinkle because it takes so long to cure, and of course I would get in trouble for that. But they were excellent paints, extremely abrasion resistant and great flow and leveling, levels out like glass, great adhesion and anti-corrosive. So there's the real problem. If we don't have oil-based paints, how are we going to protect our ferrous metals or steel from corroding? So it is important. So today there are products that are waterborne alkyds. They're oil, but they're water-based. They clean up with soap and water. This particular paint has urethane in it. So it protects from chalking from the sun, because the old alkyds would really chalk. So it's an excellent option for us as designers. We can have this oil paint that cleans up with soap and water and is low VOC. So let's talk a little bit more about latex or water-based technology. There are so many different types of polymers here. 100% acrylic is really what you want to paint the exterior of your home or your buildings or whatever you're specifying. That's exterior on commercial spaces and any space. If it's exterior, it should be 100% acrylic, especially if it's a wood substrate or a cementitious substrate like ephes or stucco. So because of the flexibility of 100% acrylic. Now, here are some of the benefits for latex paint. Boy, is it easy to use. And the old alkyds would yellow when you painted them. After a few years, that white paint would have a yellow sheen to it. So it just didn't look great after a while. And resistance to chalking, because chalking is caused by oxidation. So the latex paints don't cure like that, so they don't chalk as much. They're more washable, good flow and leveling, great adhesion. They are low odor. And here's the thing, the color and gloss retention is excellent with these latex paints. They've improved so much over the years. They're very durable. Flexibility is a big problem with alkyds or oils. They tend to crack over the years, but latex paints are extremely flexible. And of course, they clean up with soap and water or just water. I use a little ammonia, if that's a nice tip for you guys. I do like ammonia to clean up any kind of paint brushes. Okay, let's talk a little bit about eco-friendly resin technology. This is super important to Dunn Edwards. This zero VOC should be in quotes because technically you can have 1 to 5 grams per liter VOC in a gallon of paint, in a liter of paint. So 5 or less grams per liter VOC, and still be called zero VOC. Now, zero VOC does not mean no odor. There will be some odor, but it's not enough that would affect you painting in occupied spaces, for instance, schools, and they're really concerned about that. They don't want people getting headaches, but just know that it's low odor. It doesn't mean no odor. Okay, now let's do another quiz question. I don't even remember my questions, which is horrible, but let's see if I can come up with one. Name one type of resin. I can't see the chat. I don't know why, but you guys can see it, I hope.
Wendy, at the bottom of your screen, you should be a thing that says chat.
Mine's at the top. Mine's at the top.
Okay,
oh,
might be at the top.
Yeah, it's at the top. Good. One type of resin, latex. Good. So that's Sophia Rodas. Good job. Very good.
We also had silicone from Lori.
Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, good. So let's talk a little bit more about solvents. we have, obviously in our latex paints, it's water. But in the old oil paints, and you had to use, in order to clean your brushes, you had to use mineral spirits or turpentine, really horrible stuff that I sat in as a kid in the 60s and got blisters on my leg. So it was bad stuff, and it wasn't good for us at all. So we don't have to use that anymore for the most part. So there were a lot of different solvents, and then when they evaporated off and the process occurred, that would be called off-gassing. That's where we got the odor from. So, but this evaporates, and it does a lot of good things. It holds consistency, viscosity, and it helps with flow and leveling. We talked about that a little bit. And a wet edge. And all a wet edge means is when you're painting a section, say you're rolling it on a wall, you want that edge of what you've painted before you paint. Say you're not painting corner to corner, you're painting just a section of one wall. You want that edge to be maintained wet so that you can paint the next section without there being a dry edge, which will create a line and you can see what section you painted. So you don't want your walls to be, unless that's the look you want, painted in sections like that. But so that's what wet edge means. It helps you maintain a wet edge when you're painting. Okay, sorry, trying to, all right, this is just a great, there we go. Couldn't get it to advance. So let's talk about, let's make sure we know, okay, additives. There's so many, and these are just a few really. Biocides, which kill bacteria and fungus. Rheological aids, which help thicken the paint and control the flow. And dryers, which control the drying time of the paint. Surfactants, that's just soap. If you ever had high school chemistry, a surfactant is just a soap, but it's probably specialized soap for paint. And then defoamers, you've got that surfactant in there. So, you know, when you buy it and you're at point of sale, they put it on the shaker to mix it. You don't want that to be all foamy when you open it up. So this is important. And then you don't want bubbles to pop when you're rolling the paint onto the wall or wherever you're painting or brushing it, because then you'll have these little dried bubbles. So defoamers are important. Plasticizers soften the resins. Dispersing agent keeps the pigment suspended throughout. You know, you don't have to keep stirring it all the time. And anti-skinning, it seems like all paints get a little bit of that skin on the top if they've been on the you know, on the shelf for a while, but this will keep it from forming. Okay, special thickening agent. This is an additive that really helps paint flow and level out without showing, minimal brush strokes or roller marks. So on the left, the competition, well, that's probably even a economy paint, and maybe on the right, that would be our ultra premium paint. So it doesn't have the economy paint on the left, the competition doesn't have as many great thickening agents as the one on the right does. So it's not going to flow and level out well, and you're going to end up with brush strokes. So that's what that's for. And this is an ASTM test, and for American Society of Testing and Materials, this is what all the paint manufacturers to test their paints during the laboratory process when they're formulating paints. And they continue to do it, you know, to make sure that these paints are standing up and holding up and nothing needs to be reformed. So on the left side of that, cardstock, it's a special cardstock for drawdown paints. It shows, it's a one kind of a paint. These are actually apples to apples. These are both premium grade paints. On the left, it doesn't flow and level out. When they draw that comb through, it leaves all of the spaces and the paint is not flowing and leveling out. The one on the right, as you can see, it just fills in all those spaces that the comb created. So I'm working properties of quality paint. Well, it goes on smoothly, and you don't want to see that roller marks. Spattering is such a huge problem. You know, I mean, if you don't cover everything really well, you've got a paint that spatters a lot. That's a problem. Plus, it gets all over the person it's painting too. I've had that happen to me. It's always in my hair a week. So you really don't want splattering. And you want it to hide well. You don't want to have to continue to paint coat after coat after coat. You want it to be resistant to and stain, which makes cleaning and maintenance much, much easier for you. This is what this is what you balance. Flat paint, which everyone loves because it looks so beautiful. I'm going to have to be touching up all the time, or something with a little bit of I can wipe and keep clean, especially when you have children with all their little fingerprints everywhere. I remember that. My kids are all grown up now, but I do remember the jelly fingers everywhere. So now during the curing process, I said oxidation was how alkyds cure. But in the latex or the water-based paints, it just is called coalescence. So it's just exactly the way it sounds. They just coalesce and become, tight until they're completely cured and dry and strong. So you start with a wet film. Everything's all suspended. Pigments and resins are, and then it goes through the tacky stage and dry film when everything is compact. So this just gives you a diagram of wet and dry film thickness. And it's to help you understand how you calculate dry film thickness. In the bottom screen, it shows it at 1.5 mils, that little there, but in the top, it shows 3 mils. Well, if this is a 50% solid paint, it would compact from 3 to 1.5 mils. That's a simple calculation. Now, obviously, that would be a very high solid paint, and there's not too many paints that are 50% solids. So, but that's just to show you that down here at the bottom calculation, there's no way to calculate dry film if you don't know what the solids are before. And all this is found on a data sheet, a technical data sheet, product data sheet, whatever they're called, different things. There's not one term for it. But every manufacturer has data sheets available for you. You would look for the wet film, you would look for the solids, and then you take the wet film thickness by measuring it with a little comb. And on the other presentation, I showed the little comb. It's just a wet film gauge, and you just dip it up against the wall or whatever it is you painted and pull it back. And the last little tooth on that comb will show you how thick the paint is. The last one that has paint on it, I should say. So, but in this calculation, it's really easy. You take the dry film thickness and you, or the wet film thickness, and you divide it by the volume solids to get the dry film thickness. It's very simple calculation. But what Kelly and I can help you with anytime you have questions about this, and maybe where to get a wet film gauge too. So what affects the coating thickness? Well, a lot of things. Overthinning. So manufacturers will give you instructions on the data sheets of how much water you can add. Now, I never add water to my paint, but I don't paint when it's 100 degrees outside, because there's also on sheets a temperature range. So in terms of environmental conditions, you really look at those. And here where we live in the summertime, the painters have this, they go by this adage. They follow the shade. In the wintertime, especially in the Bay Area here in California, and probably even in Las Vegas, they may follow the sun if it's a cold day. But here we see the shade in the summer. We do not paint when it's over 90 degrees, that kind of thing. So look at those conditions on your data sheet and follow them. It may say you can add up to 4 ounces of water. Don't add any more, because it will affect the effectiveness of the paint. And then, of course, application is important. You could be brushing, you could be spraying. A sprayer doesn't put as much paint as a brush or a roller. Porosity of the substrate. If it's really porous, it's going to absorb a lot of that paint, so that affects it. The surface profile. Sometimes stucco is very uneven, and you'll get a thinner coat of paint on the very tip tops of the stucco, but in the little valleys, you'll get more. And then obviously quality is huge. Quality is very, very important. It's more thick. You'll get a thicker mill coating than you will, mill thickness than you will with a cheaper quality paint. Here are some of the properties for dry hide. Okay, so when you paint with a wet paint, it's all shiny, and then you come back and it's cured, and you see little spots where you missed. So that's called dry hide. That means you want good dry hide, but you do have to go over it maybe with a second coat. We always recommend 2 top coats for every job. Sheen, dry film properties, we need to see what kind of sheen we have. If it doesn't have the sheen that you were promised, then it doesn't have good dry film properties. Adhesion, of course, is important. Is it weatherable? Does it resist to scrubbing? Enamel holdout just means that whatever that sheen is, it isn't getting absorbed into the surface. So if it's if you haven't primed, okay, for instance, one time I retextured I didn't prime it. I didn't know what I was doing. It was before I knew anything. and of course it was very uneven. The sheen was very uneven because it was being absorbed into that texture. So is hugely important. If you want that enamel to hold out and that sheen to hold out, prime first. Touch-up properties are super important. It needs to be dry to touch and dry to recoat. Those are 2 different things. So look on your data sheet for the dry to touch window and the dry to recoat window. They're 2 different things. Needs to be resistance to blocking, which we're going to talk about. And it needs to have good color and gloss retention. So what constitutes quality paint? Well, it's easy to apply. It has, it's aesthetically beautiful, and it should last a long time. Okay, let's ask a question. Let's see, I have to think of something. Name one solvent. Doesn't matter what type of paint, just name a solvent. Yes, Lori. Lori Dyer said water. Good job. Excellent. Okay, let's move on. Okay, this is comparing definitely an economy paint with a premium paint. And you can see that there's less solids in the economy paint. This is just to illustrate that when you're done painting, you're going to have a thinner mill thickness there on the right hand side. You can see that. So in other words, you might pay more for labor if you're getting a cheaper paint. Or you might have to pay more coats, and that's not much fun. So buy a higher quality paint. It just saves you in the long run and gives you a better result. So what constitutes quality paint? Well, hide or coverage. We have a drawdown that you can see at the bottom. It's called a zebra card. And the zebra card is because it's got black and white stripes. And it's there so that in this ASTM test, we want to test whether this is covering well. And this is the perfect way to do it. So this is comparing 2 different manufacturers. The one on the left, and this is equal color. So in other words, this is a color match situation. Sometimes you'll go into a painter and you'll have a color, but it's not their particular color, but they will color match it for you. And this just shows you, Dunn Edwards, we do make our own colorants. They're super concentrated, and it's covered better than manufacturers is. Blocking, I told you about this. So this is where they take that same painted cardstock material, paint both sides, and at 24 hours, 3 days, and 7 days, they do a little test, a weight. In the middle there, you see a little weight. They stick the 2 painted surfaces together, put it in a little low heat oven, put the weight on there for a prescribed amount of time. If they pull it apart and it doesn't stick, this has excellent anti-blocking characteristics. Flat paint block, it doesn't stick, but you're not going to paint a door with flat paint. You're going to use something with sheen. So it's really important when you shut that door that it doesn't stick to the other surface. So that's why this is important. Adhesion, hugely important. They do this test for primers all the time because primers, we really want them to adhere and stick to the surface. This happens to be plastic that they're painting. They score, pull back the the tape. And if it's completely gone, you on the right hand side, then that's a fail. The one on the left is mostly the percentage. It did very well, just had a few little blocks missing. So that's the ASTM test on adhesion. And here we're just talking about primers. So this happens to be one of our universal. It's great for so many different surfaces. Sometimes though, it's important to get that very specific substrate specific primer. Like for instance, for out stains, we have a specific primer for that. If you're something that there's a bunch of oily stuff on the surface that you can't get off, or where you colored your walls with crayon, that happens. So you may want to get a specific primer for that. So this is really, really important. Primers are so important. This is another test. I don't know if you've learned about the Weisenbach test yet. For fabrics, it's a double, what was it called? Double something test, where they have this thing, a pendulum swinging over the fabric, double scrub test. This is not that, but it is a brush, and the brush oscillates at a certain number of intervals. And as you can see, it goes on both sides of this drawdown, where the paint and the one paint on the right, that would be considered a fail. So this is a test they do for scrub resistance. Touching up, this is big and important. Obviously, flat paints touch up much better than any kind of sheen, but the higher the quality, the better it will touch up. So obviously they did not try to touch up by feathering it in. And oftentimes when you touch up, you may just have to go corner to corner to do a good job, but try it first. But a higher quality paint will definitely touch up better. So what constitutes quality paint? Well, all of our paints are quality, but every manufacturer manufactures a range of grades. So we do have production grade paint, and it has its place. For instance, retail, oftentimes they do a white style, and when that retail moves into that space, they make it their own with their own branded color or whatever. Also with yearly leases, a lot of apartment buildings, they go in and paint with something pretty inexpensive because they know that that will turn over in a year or two. So it definitely has its place. So not every paint is created equal. Obviously, better ingredients and better performance properties constitute a quality paint. And now I'm going to, oh no, I'm sorry, we still have a little bit more. Eco-efficiency. I'm trying to watch my time here. With all of our glitches, I'm afraid we used up a little bit of time. So environmental responsibility, this is hugely important to Dunn Edwards. We're very committed to all things sustainable. And that's why we have no red chemical ingredients in any of our paint. If you've ever seen a red list, we don't produce anything with HAPs or hazardous air pollutants or toxic air contaminants. All of our latex paints are zero toxic and definitely low VOC. Ethylene glycol was an ingredient that was in antifreeze. Unfortunately, it was a sweet tasting thing that pets and children unfortunately tasted and got very sick or even died. So it's a really bad ingredient, and we do not have it in any of our latex paints because we make all of our own colorants. So universal colorants, which many manufacturers use, have ethylene glycol in them. This just gives you an example of, if you go to that safety data, so material safety data sheets are now called safety data sheets. But it'll take some time for all of them to be weeded out. But if you go to that safety data sheet and you see some of these warnings, pick something else. You can find something that doesn't have glycol in it. It's just not a good. Propylene glycol is what Dunn Edwards uses in all of our latex paints. It is. It's an ice cream, you guys. I would not eat that ice cream, but it is in some foods, it's in medications, definitely cosmetics. So it's much better ingredient, and it doesn't have VOCs, so it's not harmful to the air as well. So if your SDS sheet has this warning, or your paint can shows this, move on, select something different. That's my recommendation. Oh, now I'm going to give it to Kelly, but let's ask one more question, okay? Let's see. What touches up better, a flat paint or a gloss paint? Yes, so looks like, is it Ruth? So Ruth, make sure you get Kelly your information in the chat. I can't see your whole name, but okay, Kelly, take it away.
Hi guys, I'm Kelly Hemming. I am the local rep here for Las Vegas. And we have several different options for our color library for you guys. I know the school over at UNLV probably has about 10 of our library kits, unless you guys have cleaned out over there. And I'm happy to drop some more off if you need them. But everything in our system is all color coordinated. So we have our fan decks, which you can see in the upper left-hand corner. And through our fan decks, we have everything based upon their system. So we have our whites, and then we have our standard color system that runs the gamut of the rainbow. And then we have a section with classics, which have been, many of these have been in our line since the very beginning. They have been just basically our really popular colors. And then we have the accents, which are really bold, bright colors, a lot of colors that are used like at Disney. Typically those are colors that we tell you not to use on the exterior, but I do have some tricks for that. So, you know, feel free to reach out to me at any time and I can go over that. And then at the very end, we have our Then, Now, and Forever collection, which is our newest color line of 300 plus updated colors. On the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see the travel kit. Our travel kit has 10 fan decks that, instead of having the step-down colors, it's one color on each sheet, and it makes it really easy to take with you when you want to go out and see a client, because you can fan them out, and it is just one color, so you get a bigger sample than you would from the regular fan deck. And then on the left bottom side, you'll see our color album. For those of you that are in Las Vegas, if you happen to pick up your toolkits, I did put a color album and a fan deck in there for you guys. The color album, and the reason that I really like the color album is when you open it up, you're opening it up to look at how the colors lay out against each other in the same color family. So a lot of times you will have a client who is really insistent on a specific color. And when you're able to take this out and show them, you know, I really think this is going to be too yellow for you, or I really think it might be too green, and you want to lean a different way, this is really good. I think it's showing them where the colors lay in relation to each other. And then we also have a big color library. If any of you are working out of firms or have your own firm, I am more than happy to bring a color library over to you. It's a bigger system. Oh, there we go. It has the 5x7 color samples that you can take out and lay out. It also has the color album and the fan deck in there. So it's a very good system. A lot of people, it is big, but a lot of people really enjoy having the bigger samples, and it makes it a lot easier for them to take out and show their clients. So that is our color system as a whole. So if we want to move on to the next portion of this, I think Danielle wanted.
Yes, and and online you can get the Photoshop swatches and Revit and AutoCAD. So all of those are available online on our website. It didn't show on here because, again, I have the wrong presentation. So, but be aware that they're there. Okay, are you finished, Kelly?
I am.
Okay, let's move on to Danielle. Or wait, no, I have something. Yeah, sorry, one more little thing here. This is just to show you that we do have a LEED manufacturing plant, and it's LEED Gold. And you know, this is something we're pretty proud of because it is we are a manufacturing plant in the world with a LEED certified manufacturing plant. So we're excited, and it's LEED Gold, and so it has a Reverend Phoenix, and you want to do a tour, let us know. And this doesn't have the right information. I'm so sorry, but go ahead, Danielle, and talk about what you need to talk about.
Hi, sure. Yeah. So first of all, thank you all for your time and enjoying this conversation. And I've sent Kelly the email addresses of the people who won the prizes, so she'll be reaching out to you directly. But overall, I just want to reiterate what I said at the beginning, is that we have a emerging professionals program that's being relaunched this year, and we're really excited about it because it's really being redesigned to be more useful for students, and really acknowledging that you have a lot to learn, you don't have a lot of finances, but you need the information, and how can you do that? And so that's what, you know, these presentations are for, or the design competition. We have a lot of exciting things coming down the road, so please definitely keep a lookout for that. You know, follow us on social media as well. We'll send around a PDF version of the presentation that Wendy was meant to present on. So it has all of our contact information on it and all the relevant information she definitely wants you all to have as a resource going forward, because paint is the #1 material painted on surfaces. It's used in everything. And so it's really important to know. And now you have more knowledge, and you can really, you know, feel confident when you go and talk to contractors, or you're completing that final project and you've downloaded our colors for Revit, and you have these just really great color palettes. So that's what we're here for. That's what, you know, please reach out to us at any time with any question. You know, don't feel hesitant. And we look forward to engaging with you in the future in another presentation or in a career fair, etc. So thank you so much.
And, you know, also I would like to add that if you're already practicing, please reach out to Kelly and me, and we will get you more than just that album that's in your bag and the fan deck, because we want you to have the tools you need to do your job. I mean, a lot of times when you're in school, that doesn't mean you're not working. So we're happy to help you with that. And also, if you haven't been into one of the stores, so the 3 stores, the Sacramento store, the Clovis store, the Fresno store, and Kelly?
And yes, and we have the 5 stores here in Las Vegas. So we have one in Summerlin, one in Henderson, one off of Fort Apache, one off of Valley View, and then our main store off of Tropicana and the 95.
So if you haven't been in there to pick up your bag, it's fine. Just go in and just tell them that you're a student. They'll know, and pick it up. If you have trouble, give us a call. All right. And I think we're going to open it up to questions if you have any.
Wendy, there are a few in the chat.
Okay.
So,
yes. So Saturday, just check the hours. You can pick it up. You just check the hours, because sometimes some stores are not open as long. You know, they're not open, whatever it is, 7 to 5. So check the hours. Let me just scroll up and see. Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, Michelle, I believe you're closest to our Fort Apache store, so you can head over to that store because I know that they still do have the bags, the little toolkits available.
Okay,
There's a question from Michelle. She's asking, oh shoot, it went away. Hold on one second. She's asking, what would be a typical paint problem for Las Vegas? Cracking, fading, question mark.
That's good for you, Kelly.
It really depends upon the substrate that you are painting on. Any exterior wood here, yes, has a very big cracking problem. So using the correct primer is extremely valuable in helping to solve that. And fading as well is a big problem here because of how much sun we get. So it is really important when you're choosing, especially for exterior paints, that you are choosing colors that will have low fade properties. And that is something that I can help you guys with as well. All of our colors are marked with an I if it's interior only. And you will be surprised to know that a lot of yellows are marked with an I.
Yeah.
So it really is, you know, what pigments are being used in that particular color is how you're going to get the fading. And then if you're working on any concrete tilt-up buildings, which we have a lot of here too, those can tend to have several different problems going on with them. And the main one is that most of the time, the painters will paint too soon because they don't want to wait enough time for the concrete to cure before they paint. And there's too much pH in the concrete. So it'll cause problems with the paint as well.
Yeah, and I would say those are very similar problems to the Central Valley too. And you know, and this is why you go to that substrate specific primer and find the one, you know, she's so right. These, you know, jobs need to keep moving, right? Delays are just costly. So let's hurry this project up, and we're not going to wait that 28 days for that concrete to cure. We're just going to paint it right now. So, you know, there are ways to test it. We have little kits where you can take a little, it's almost like a crayon. You wet the area, wipe the crayon on there, and it will show you a pH, what it is, if it's a high pH or low pH, but it wouldn't be low pH, but if it were high, too high for the primer to stop that pH alkali from destroying the paint color, then you better wait. Or you better use that really good primer that's specific for a high pH, excuse me. So anyway, look at those specific primers and use them, because that's what they're for. They are there for, you know, to prevent problems. I mean, Kelly and I, we see it all the time. The biggest problem with paint failure is not the paint. It's really, the biggest problem is preparation and not using the right primer for the substrate. Danielle, that's wonderful. That's a really helpful thing. That paint, Danielle put in the chat, the paint problems and solutions brochure. That's really, really helpful.
Yeah, and I believe those in Las Vegas that picked up a toolkit, I'm almost 100% positive that I put that in your bag as well. And then to move to something that Daniela said, next week UNLV is having their career fair. Glenn in the hospitality group is in charge of putting that on. But next week or the following week? Oh, the career fair is March 26th. So it is virtual. So if you guys want to get on that, we will have some of our positions that Dunn has open on there as well.
Well, we're at time, so I just want to thank you all for joining us today. I do apologize again for those technical issues, but we will send you the correct presentation. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us. We are here for you.
Thank you very much, Wendy. If there are any more questions, type them now and we'll try to get to them. If not, we are ready to go. All right, thank you.
Thank
And
you
we will
so much.
next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.